always keep in mind that once the implantation is successful, you are embarking on your next journey, which is your pregnancy journey of another 9 months. And for that, I want you to be absolutely ready, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And that's why we put so much emphasis into the readiness of an embryo transfer. Hello, and a warm welcome to today's show. I hope that you started your day really well today and that you're ready for this session today. I got some feedback from some of the listeners from one of the earlier episodes that we had when I talked about IVF timeline. And I thought it might be good to just retake that session because I think there were some questions around it, which I'm going to answer today. So I'm going to share my screen now. And I did a little bit a better drawing today for you so that you can see it very well. For those that are listening through the podcast, if you hop on the YouTube of your fertility counselor, you can see the visuals as well. If you prefer to continue to listen to the podcast show, that's absolutely fine. I'm trying to explain what I draw on my slide as much as I can. So here on the graphics, I have a timeline. The timeline starts from left and goes to the right, left being today and right being into the future. So this timeline represents basically the IVF timeline. The IVF timeline helps us to understand what's going on and what's happening in an IVF program, which is very often actually not so clear to many of the couples because they have no clue what's happening in the next couple of weeks. So this should help you to get a little bit more information around like what's going on, what's about to expect, what's happening, so that you know that you have options that you can make decisions and discuss with your doctor, with your medical provider at any point in time. So before your IVF even starts, that's when, there are maybe some questions around which doctor should we choose, which clinic should we choose? Are we really aligned? Are we both agreeable to start with the IVF? So these are sometimes things that you really want to discuss, topics that are really important to be aligned, because all what I'm saying is like when you decide to embark on an IVF program, it's really very, very important that you both are very much aligned on this. Your IVF starts on day 2 of your menses. Usually you give a call, you agree with your doctor to give a call on day 1 when you get your menses. And that's when you make an appointment to see your doctor. You go back to the clinic. Doctor usually wants to scan one more time your ovaries to just ensure that there are enough follicles already ready to grow. And once your doctor or medical provider gives you a thumbs up, this is when you get the hormones and the injection kit so that you can take it home and you can start with your injections on day 2. First injection is usually shown to you at the clinic. So one of the nurses will explain very well to you on how to administer the injections. After that, you embark on a hormone stimulation period or phase of about like 10 to 12 days. During these 10 to 12 days, some of the clinics, it depends like whether you are at a public IVF hospital or whether you are in one of the private IVF centers. The private IVF centers tend to see you more often during these 10 to 12 days. They usually like to see you on day 5, 7, and 9. For those that embark on an IVF program with one of the public clinics, that's usually when you wouldn't see or have any of these appointments for those 10 to 12 days and just simply go back on whichever date they would actually tell you. It could be anything between day 10, 11, or 12. For those that opt for the IVF program with one of the private clinics, as I said, you will be asked to come back on day 5, simply to see whether the meds that they have been given to you are actually really taking up on the follicle stimulating growth, or whether you need to have more of those hormones, or whether they need to adjust the hormones to get you less taking in. And that's simply just to ensure that you are on the right track. Coming to day 9, the clinic will then advise you on which day your egg retrieval will happen. You will go into the clinic usually early morning. It's a very early morning appointment, so don't be surprised if you need to be at the clinic around 6:30 or 7 o'clock. And that's simply for the process of your eggs as well as your sperms, because they will want to wash the sperms thoroughly. They will want to prepare your eggs for fertilization. And that's why the lab needs a bit of time to do all of that. And fertilization usually happens in the afternoon on that same day. So, talking of sperms, your partner will have to provide a sperm sample on that same day. There is always the option to also get the cup already ahead and do the sperm sample at home if you don't feel comfortable to produce it at the clinic, which I completely understand. There are many men actually who feel more comfortable to produce the sperm sample at home. The only, I think, restriction to that is that it must be really fresh. Usually the clinic would tell you within which timeline you have to go back to the clinic and provide or deliver the sperm sample. So just ensure that you get that right with the clinic. After that procedure, you will usually go home after some time of recovery at the day ward. If you feel all good, you can go home within 2 to 3 hours usually. At home, you can really rest because it's a procedure that is being taken place under anesthesia. So some women actually that I know of would work from home in the afternoon. Previously, there was no option to work from home, and people had to go back to the office, which then they preferred actually to take a day off. And nowadays, it's much easier to work from home for the second half of that day. Then, after egg retrieval and the sperm sample delivery and the fertilization on that same day, it's a bit of a waiting time. So some clinics actually give you a feedback after 24 hours, which is day 1, considered to be day 1. And they would then let you know how many of your eggs were able to fertilize and how many of them grew into a day 1 embryo. The usual approach for most of the clinics is to give you another update on day 3. And on day 3, they would then let you know whether they are freezing those embryos or whether they are continuing to grow them. This is a question that can be discussed already ahead when you embark on the IVF program, and should be done there because some of the clinics have a very, very clear approach on which day they would actually freeze your embryos. So make sure that you have a good understanding whether the clinic that you chose to work with freezes the embryos on day 2, on day 3, or on day 5. For those clinics that freeze embryos on day 5, they would definitely give you a call on day 3 to give an update on the development of your embryos, and will be in touch again on day 5 to let you know how many embryos you have left in the process and how many of them are going to be frozen. Now, talking about frozen, there is more and more clinics that are following the protocol of freezing embryos on day 2, day 3, or day 5 for embryo transfer. However, there are also lots of clinics that are still operating on the basis of doing fresh transfers. If you have embarked with one of those clinics that is doing fresh transfers, you will be called in to the clinic before your embryo transfer, just to check how your uterus lining is doing, and you will be given progesterone. Progesterone is the hormone that you want to take to support your pregnancy, to support the uterus lining. So FET stands for either fresh or frozen embryo transfer. As I said, if you embark on a fresh embryo transfer, you will be called in basically on day 3 or 5 for an embryo transfer. If, however, you are in a program where the clinic highly advises for you to come back for a frozen cycle, the waiting time or the break that you can take can be as long as you want. I have many of my couples that actually opt to take a break from the whole IVF because they know now they have this peace of mind that they have frozen embryos and they just like to go for a holiday, or they just like to focus on other things that maybe they have put on hold. So if you have a house move, or if you are embarking on a bigger project for your work or for a next career level, then this is a good time to do that, because your body needs a break, definitely, usually. And it's good to focus on those items that are really important to you and that you put your heart into it, where you feel passionate about it, and where you just feel it's doing you good. So definitely recommend to do those big rocket items or those items that do good to your heart before you do the embryo transfer. So now you get ready for your embryo transfer. That's when you give a call to your doctor if you have taken some time off, and let your doctor know that you want to schedule for an appointment to get ready for your embryo transfer. Your doctor will want to check once again your uterus lining, so most likely around ovulation time, that's when your doctor will call you in to check whether your uterus lining is working well. Once your medical provider gives you the thumbs up for your embryo transfer, you will be called in. Usually, embryo transfer happens for many of my clients in the afternoon, but it can be also in some of the clinics happening in the mornings. It's really depending on the clinic's protocol and operational processes. So again, make sure that you get a good understanding on how your clinic is operating, so that you know which time you have to take off from work. Embryo transfer is usually a very short procedure. It can take as long as, I would say, like anything between 5 minutes to 15, or the maximum will be really your 20 minutes. And it will be done in the operating theater usually, because the operating theater is usually attached to the laboratory next door, which makes it easier for your embryos to be brought into the operating theater. Now, in the room itself, you will be joined by, of course, your doctor, your IVF doctor, one embryologist who will bring your embryo or embryos into the operating theater, and 1 to 2 nurses. You will have a screen where it's very similar to the screen that you usually have for your pap smear. The procedure feels like a pap smear. If you feel very uncomfortable with the pap smear itself from previous checkups with your gynecologist, please inform your doctor so your doctor can help you with the discomfort as much as possible. You should feel relaxed, to be honest, because the uterus is a muscle. So if you feel very much in discomfort, it actually tenses up muscles in our body, which then makes it not so easy for your doctor to do the transfer of your embryo. So we want you to feel as relaxed as possible. After that, you will be again taken to the day ward just for a small observation. It can be as short as 15 to 30 minutes. Research shows that it is helpful to stay in bed for another 20 to 30 minutes, laying down and deeply relaxing your body so that your embryo can settle in, because your embryo did a little bit of a journey that day. It went from a freezer through a thawing process into a petri dish, and from the petri dish it went into a syringe, and from a syringe it was transferred into your uterus. So there was quite a journey for your embryo on that day, and that's why we highly recommend for you to stay in bed and relax. Take that relaxation also for the rest of your day. Take it light, take it easy. Please, if you have like an event that needs your presence, of course you can go. It's not that you can't go. If you tell me that you want to go to a trampoline park or, run a marathon that same day, I would say no, definitely no. But you can walk staircases, you can definitely move around. Just put it into a positive way, everything in moderation. That's all what we are saying usually, and that's what the medical providers are saying too. After that, you have 2 weeks of waiting time. Some doctors actually call you in, would want to see you after 1 week, just to check on the uterus lining, perhaps, to make sure that your progesterone levels are all right. Some doctors don't see you for the next 2 weeks until you get called in by the clinic to do your blood test in the morning. This is your BHCG, that's the pregnancy hormone, and that can be only found out through your blood. And so for those that are curious or want to prepare themselves for the results of the blood test and are buying some of those pregnancy urine tests in any of the pharmacies, you can, but usually I say it could be like wasted money too, because those are not equipped to find out about really early stage of pregnancy. It's too early, because you would usually use those sticks when you expect your menses to kick in, which is too early at that point in time. So this is basically the whole timeline. So you would then get the results of your blood test, usually be communicated to you via phone through your clinic. It can be a nurse, it can be a doctor. That's usually down to the protocol of your clinic. I would say 90% of the cases, it is the nurse. It's very seldom the doctor, because the doctor usually has just a waiting room full of patients that they are seeing, and they wouldn't be able to make the time to call you personally. But of course, there are always exceptions, and there are some doctors who take this very serious, and they want to be the ones to deliver the message. So after that, it's really down to 2 options of the results. It could be either you are pregnant, and that would be wonderful news, and congratulations to you, or it could be that at this point in time, there has not been an implantation, a successful one, so which means that there is no pregnancy here. For some of my clients, one of the questions they usually have is, why, how early can I go back and do the next transfer? I usually know that some of the doctors like to say that you can go in as early as in a month's time again to do the next transfer. And if you feel absolutely okay, emotionally, mentally, physically, to do that, absolutely, you can go in after 1 month again. And for those ones who feel that they are embarking maybe on a journey where they feel it's taking an emotional toll on them, it's also mentally taxing, or it could be physically that they feel that their body is processing. So it could be that then the advice would be to really take some time to rest first. Always keep in mind that once the implantation is successful, you are embarking on your next journey, which is your pregnancy journey of another 9 months. And for that, I want you to be absolutely ready, mentally, emotionally, and physically. And that's why we put so much emphasis into the readiness of an embryo transfer. So, of course, it's a personal choice. I had women who weren't 100% ready, but then went ahead and did the transfer, and it was successful, and they felt really, really great during the pregnancy. So it's a very personal choice, and this is like what I want you to take away from today's session here. It's at each of these stages, whether it's the beginning of your IVF, whether it is the decision on when to go in for embryo transfer, it is really very much up to you to feel within you the readiness of when is it the right time for us to proceed with the next step. So I hope this provided you with some insights for you to also decide when is it the right time for us to go in, because as you can see, there are different steps. Some of these different check-ins or procedures are lined up by your clinic. So please ensure that you have this conversation with your IVF medical support to really understand what's their timeline and how does your timeline play within it. Because if you know that you have major events or you travel for business within the next couple of weeks, this should be really part of your conversation with your medical provider so that you know how to plan around these procedures and how to plan around your business travels so that both of you can be present and both of you can be here. There are always exceptions and there can be always solutions found, but this is, I would say, like the majority of an IVF timeline on how you would expect it to flow. Hope we gave you the insight. I'm really, really happy to share more on the emotional hotspots in the next session. So please come in and join me again for the next episode, which will talk more about the IVF timeline and the emotional hotspots. I hope this was helpful. Please share with your friends if they are in the same boat or on the same journey like you, if you found this helpful. I'm happy to see you next week and can't wait to share more with you on this. Thanks and see you soon.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Fertility Counselor podcast. Remember, you are not alone on this journey. If you need support or have any questions, reach out to us via email at inquiries@counselingconnects.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Fertility Connects. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to learn more about us and the services we offer, head to www.fertilityconnects.com. And if you're looking for support beyond fertility, visit www.counselingconnects.com. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode.